Hi guys, this is week 35 Project Life, and as well as these three gorgeous new stamp sets from Kellie Stamps, I'm going to work with a bunch of my heritage goodies today because I've had it sitting next to my desk for a very long time and haven't yet really done a Project Life with it. So I've got a stationery pack, the 6x8 papers, I've got some alphas, the sticker pack, and my favourite little puffy wax seal things. And I started by going through the stationery pack because when I bought the stationery pack, I kind of bought it with the intention of actually using it in Project Life. It's, you know, frames and envelopes and pockets and tags and that sort of thing, which I thought lent itself really nicely towards a Project Life, and I have pulled out a couple of things there. There's this little EXO pocket that I've slipped the photo of Lily into, and there was another little pocket frame thing that did have an insert in it, and funnily enough my photo fits really nicely in there. Now I've gone through the 6x8 pad and I did pull out a few papers, and I'm just going to end up using the wood grain one here and that peachy sort of striped one. I did pull out another one that had that gold sort of ribbony frame on it, but that doesn't sort of lend itself to being cut in half, to be honest. So I chose that peachy striped paper. It goes nicely with that peach frame too, which I'm dithering about deciding whether to put my photo or Lily's photo in there. And in the end I'm going to go for my photo, but I am going to just deconstruct this pocket a little bit and just use it as a frame. It was a tiny bit big for what I wanted to use it for when it was a pocket. Even though the photo fit really nicely in there, I've just trimmed around the outside of it and made this little peachy frame to go around my photo because I really did want to do some repeat stamping for this photo in particular because this stamp set has a little coffee cup icon in it. The name of the stamp set is Homebody, and it is totally perfect if you're anything like me and prefer slippers to heels. This is the stamp set for you. So I grabbed out my Catherine Paula ink. I think this one's called Sweet 16. This is from the Minis set. And I'm going to do some repeat stamping on here. This is quite a solidy little stamp, so I did give that a quick wipe over with my sand eraser before I started stamping. You can see my two test ones there. It really does make a difference if you sort of prime your stamps before you start stamping on them. And as far as repeat pattern goes, this one's fairly basic. I'm not lining anything up, I'm just kind of randomly tumbling these coffee mugs all over the place. And of course there is one that I didn't get right, so I did carefully go over it again. This is going to go behind my frame, so I started from the bottom and I'm working my way up, but I sort of realized I don't need to do that whole interior piece, that whole piece in the middle, so I'm just going to go around the outside and a little bit at the top, and the photo and the frame is going to cover the rest. So I do save myself a little bit of pattern making there. I mean, not a great deal. You can see I've still filled in the majority of it, but that's how much that frame is going to cover up there. And I really love that color. It actually goes really nicely with Heritage because it's got that sort of slightly cool toned pinky purpley lilac-y kind of color, so it works really nicely. Just glued my photo down and then glued the frame directly on top of it, so it's not a pocket like it was, but it still looks pretty similar. Now I'm going to end up using that stamp set a lot on this page because I mean, obviously working from home, living at home, my life is very home based, so a homebody set certainly makes sense for me. This stamp here, Home Sweet Home, perfect. Just stamping that on one of my son's sunrise photos, this one is. I used my Memento Tuxedo black ink, and it is a fairly solid ink, and because I didn't prime that first, the stamp was very sticky, and it did rip a little bit of my photo paper, just the little edges of home, so I used a gel pen, a black gel pen, to just fill that in, and you'll never know that that happened. And then to highlight this stamp a little bit, I'm grabbing some of these photo corners out of that Heritage sticker book and just adding a couple of gold photo corners, one to opposite sides and opposite ends of the stamp there, and it just helps to highlight that as a real statement on that photo. Now this photo here is not the best. It was a bit of late night crafting, but it's got this little black space on the right hand side, and I think I can use some of my metallic inks to create a little sentiment in there. So I'm using the Brilliance Gold ink and my Moonlight White. I'm just going to stack a couple of these sentiments. This one here I'm just going to partially stamp, and I'm just stacking them on top of each other. One says staying in tonight. The second sentiment says having myself a little break, and I've just inked up having myself and then I stamped little me time underneath it. So I love that these sentiments can sort of be mixed and matched together to fit into whatever photo that you're using them on. I love how that metallic ink worked out. I'm going to use it a bit more down here, and it will kind of help to bring in the gold that I used on that top photograph as well from the Heritage. So this looks weird, but I flipped everything upside down just because I'm working on the top of the photo and it's easier for me to have it closer to me. So I flipped the photo upside down, and I'm making sure that the stamp is upside down as well, and that way when I rotate the whole thing background to the correct position, all the stamps will be up the right way. So I'm going to stamp 3 rows of stamp, and I'm just repeating them across the page. So the first one says no place like home. The second one, which is really hard to see here on camera, says homebody. And this last little stamp says pajamas all day, which I'll be fair, definitely do not wear pajamas all day, but often are in slippers all day. So those are my 3 sentiments, and you can see there when you tilt it in the light, the metallic ink just looks so pretty on photos. Now I want to work on this photo here. It was a fairly momentous occasion for us. Shane got his license back again, so back behind the wheel. I wanted to actually stamp something to that effect on here, but the wood grain was going to make it really difficult to stamp on, so I've just tucked a tag from my stash in underneath the photo, and it gives me somewhere plain to do my stamping on. So I'm going to use the Locust Street Alpha just to spell out that same sort of sentiment, and I wish I hadn't stuck everything down before I started stamping, because I probably needed to a bit more space. I needed to move the tag a little bit further out, so the photo a little bit more to the left or something like that. So I'm sort of having to squeeze all of these alphas on, which, you know, it is what it is. I wasn't going to go back and redo it. I am cheating as well, which also it didn't really save me any time, but I'm stamping the words that the letters that I need to stamp each time on all 4 of the words, rather than working on one word at a time. So you can see the issue I'm having here. I'm like, oh, behind is not gonna fit. I needed just that tiny little bit of extra room, so I have had to squish the letters far more close together than I probably would have preferred. So that's one little thing to bear in mind, especially on a tag like that. It would have been easy to do it first and then stick it in later, just a little bit of prep, but you know me, that doesn't happen that often. So I'm just adding a few sort of touches with that same Sweet 16 ink. The stamp set comes with a couple, I think there's 3 different sort of patterns on there, stripe, a spot, and an outline spot. That means you can add just that tiny bit of detail into the interior of those letters, and I used that same pinky ink just to make sure that there was a little bit of that same colour elsewhere on the spread. Now I've kind of got the same issue with this EXO piece that I had with the other one, is that it's just slightly too large for this pocket. So again, I'm going to do a tiny bit of altering, and I'm just trimming off the sides. I pulled the back off the pocket piece and just trimmed down the sides so that it fit this tag, which was actually perfect for the 3x4 pocket. I've left that bottom flap on because it's going to turn into a sort of pocket anyway, so I stuck that behind the tag, and then I'm still slipping my photo in like it is a pocket, but just gluing the flap down so the photo doesn't actually come in and out of that pocket. And I love that I managed to get that tag in there too, because again, it just gives me a little bit more of that peachy colour. And I'm pretty much ready to move on to my title card, which I haven't actually thought too hard about until now. I do love this peachy paper, and it works perfectly with the rest of it, and I didn't really know how else to go from here. Once again, run out of tape runner, have to go and get another one. But I've pulled out one of these sort of vellum envelopes, which if you've seen my videos lately, I've got a real thing for them at the moment. So this is one of the originals that I had based a lot of my inspiration from for my last one little word. So I've just put the top piece of the envelope on. It had sort of a printed pattern on the bottom of it and I didn't want to use that, so I've just glued the top piece down and trimmed that off. Because I've trimmed it straight across, I can still use the other little printed vellum piece as kind of a pocket, and then I'm just going to spell out my title along here. I'm going to use a combination of the Heritage Puffy stickers, the Locust Street Alpha, and then some of the Alpha stickers from in the Heritage sticker pack. So I did start with the puffy sticker, they're not puffy stickers, sorry, they're foam, they're a foam sticker, and then very carefully pulled that off when I realized I needed to stamp underneath it, and that was going to make stamping very difficult. So I've stamped out 30 and I'm going to use those alphas to put the word week. And I did love the gold, and again wanted to pull out just that extra little touch of gold on the spread, so I'm using all of the gold alphas. And then underneath I'm going to use just some of those random letters from in that sticker pack. So this is week 35, so I'm going to add in the word 5. There are numerals down the bottom, but since I've spelled everything else out, I'm going to spell this out as well. I went to use the E, and that is this really light peachy colour, and it definitely did not stand out on that peach stripe paper. So I do end up using the numeral 3, which again gives me that lilac-y purple, and just flipped it upside down, and it sort of looks enough like an E for me to be happy with it. I'm not adding a label or anything for my date stamping this time. I'm just going to stamp directly onto the card. Did manage to squeeze both of those in, and then that is this page all done. All of these stamps are totally gorgeous as usual and available in store right now. Don't forget to use my code Diane10 on any purchase over $15 to get yourself 10% off. All the details are in the description box. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen, or why not check out my Patreon page because there are even more videos over there. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!